Okay, so for our group tonight, we're going to talk about the SIAP. And as my teammates know, I'm starting on it, and all of you guys are finished, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So they're going to be giving me some advice and talking about their personal take on the SIAP. Does anybody want to go first?
So I guess the biggest thing with the SIAP is basically taking all that and creating a plan for the school, if I'm correct. That's basically what it is. It's just taking the different parts and creating this whole school improvement plan for the school based on the data that you've seen or the data that you've analyzed to say, okay, this is the academic area that we need to focus on. Okay, this is the communication pieces we need to kind of get. This is the data from EVAS that we noticed wasn't high percentages that we needed to kind of focus on. So it kind of ends up being a school improvement plan, but right. It was just in different parts. It was just, one was the culture, one was the academic piece for the particular area or the students that you chose. So that's what it ends up being. It ends up taking everything together to make this whole entire plan that you would implement.
So from what I understood from the template is that we're using information from different pieces of the OMA, SCIP, CAP to create this school improvement plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're adding in transitions to make it more smooth.
Easy, like copying and pasting, it has to like flow.
Right.
But prompts are actually, when I was going back through looking at the prompts, they really explain what exactly they are looking for. And I like how he gives the template, he tells us what we need to add. We just have to make sure it's just not straight copy and paste, that it kind of flows in a logical manner from one to the next.
Because you'll see a lot of things may repeat.
Yes, it's very repetitive.
Yes, you may have to kind of shift, take some things out, or like one of the things I think was like even the description. Some of the stuff you didn't need and you had to use that for another part. Even with the different laws, I noticed that some of the things I use just different pieces. You, like Brittany said, making sure you be specific in those prompts and look at those because it specifically tells you, what you have to do. It was one part I even noticed it wasn't that long, but it had everything in it that I needed. So I didn't really say, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not long enough. But when I looked back at the prompts, it included everything that was needed. So
Task 4 and Task 5 are the easiest, I think. Those are like the easiest too. Task 4 and Task 5, you could probably like get those out of the way tonight if you wanted to, literally. Those two are like really quick and really easy to get through. So I would just go ahead and do those two, right, quickly, and then work on the other three because those other three are very detailed. But once you get to 4 and 5, it was nothing. It's 4 and 5 is really easy.
I was going to say, I got hung up on Task 1 for a couple of weeks because it's like I wanted to just copy paste everything that I needed, and then I think I had 3 drafts going on at one time, and I couldn't decide which route I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to do. And so finally, I think Dr. Sanders sent me an email, and she's like, "What's going on? Like, why haven't you submitted that yet?" And I was like, well, actually, I can't get started. And so do exactly what they're saying. Read the prompt. Don't get hung up on my one. Don't get hung up on the copy paste part. Basically, I did what got me really good started was I did an outline of what each piece that it said, and then I went and pulled that data. So then I went looking in that OMA Task 1 for what I needed. And that helped instead of, because at first I was just copying the whole thing and pasting it. And I'm going to erase this and erase that. Well, then it didn't make sense. So I found that worked for me.
So you're saying to make an outline about what is needed for each one, not necessarily what I'm pulling from, but like what I'm needing for each one for the outline would you do that for OMA? Would you do that for SIAP 1 and 2 tasks?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Yes, I'll go 1 through 3.
Okay. Because you said 4 and 5 is easy. I may be able to work on 4 and 5 in the car tomorrow.
I think Task 4, all you're literally doing is doing the fiscal and human resources in the book. Like, all you're doing is making a chart, and like that's it for the human.
And that's it. Yeah,
fiscal resources. and the goals, and like that's literally it. It may be like a small paragraph introduction above that, and literally that's it for task 4.
Okay.
And then task 5 is like all your charts from the app sale, the app tell, marketing plan.
Yes.
You just
Your
copy
whole plan
those
together.
charts, all those plans, and that's literally it for task 5. I mean, you can throw in a conclusion if you want to, but literally it's just charts for task 5. So 1, 2, and 3 is the bulk, is like the meat of it.
Yeah, because I know on some of the prompts it'll say OMA 1 through 4. And like Jessica was saying, you could copy all 1 through 4, but you may not need all of those things. Right. So it's probably easier to outline and say, okay, let me look at 1 through 4 and see what I specifically need from that task to put in. Because I got into that. I got the copy and pasting it, and then I went back and looked over, and I was like, well, this doesn't flow. This doesn't work together. I need to take this out and maybe add this part from OMA 1 as part of the introduction to 4 or something. So that's a really good idea to outline.
Okay. And did you outline it using the information from the MEL scale handbook that's like the grading scale, or did you use it from the
prompts?
The prompts.
Yeah, straight from the prompts.
Yeah, I would go straight from the prompts because that's what they're looking for. And then at the very end, I went back and looked at the rubric. And
that's what I did too.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good plan to me then. I'm going to be driving to South Carolina, down the Gulf, Myrtle Beach for 4 days. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Well, it's hard to enjoy because I've been so stressed about the schoolwork, and so my goal was to get the CAP completely done and turned in before I left for the beach. That way I could work on the SIAP in the car, because I'm really good about working on my computer in the car. I think I finished like a whole task that was one of the long ones in the car the last time we went to the beach. But that way, when I get back next weekend, I can just finish the SIAP and get it turned in, hopefully.
I'm kind of like Brittany. You probably, it might be easier to do 4, 5, and 6 and get those done. Because 6 is the competencies. So you could get those done with no problem.
Right.
Those are probably your easiest. And then you could kind of maybe put some ideas in for 1 through 3 and then combine them all that way. But yeah, 3, 4, 4, 5, and 6 are the easiest.
Yeah.
That's good advice. That's helpful for me. What was we were just talking about this before we started recording, but we can kind of skip back and go through the CAP since that's part of this semester too. What were your experiences with the CAP, ladies?
I have to look at mine.
I think I got a 3.5 on mine. So it wasn't too bad. I was expecting a higher score, but again, like we were saying, I think it all depends on who grades it.
The biggest thing that I've run into, which I know I have been so jealous, like I've even had this conversation with my husband, that I was so jealous of the South Carolina State Report Card because you guys have so much data in it.
Yeah.
And I have no data on the NC Report Card, even less than public schools, because I guess we're a charter school, that we aren't required to have like the same information. I can't figure out why, because I know I looked at other North Carolina schools' report cards and they had more information than mine, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But
South Carolina, we could just have used that report card and we would have probably been okay. I know probably all of us did use a little bit extra from other places, but we probably could have used our report card and just pulled out each little piece, because some places you could go into detail and it would give you so much detail. So we probably would have been okay just using our report card, but I know a lot of us did probably use some extra pieces.
I will, once I get it all put together, I will have used the school report card, the teacher working conditions survey, and EBOS to try to just like get enough basic data in mind, because there's just not enough out there.
Some of our EBOS data is actually part of the school report card.
Right.
Our EBOS data is not made public, really? So, like, I have an internal report that my principal gave me that has, like, our breakdown of how well our subgroups did, but I don't think that that's public data. I think that they just they use it in a formula to come up with their school score, but they don't make it public.
I think my issue was the information that I had was from my previous leader. So it was amazing compared to when I surveyed the teachers now. It was a total, it was kind of like lopsided because I have a new leader. So the information was from my old leader with teachers. And so it was hard for me to kind of explain that and help them understand that this is old data and some of the other data is new data of what's currently happening. So that was kind of a concern and an issue I had with mine because I used our old school report card, but then when I surveyed teachers, I got a total different information from my teachers because they were thinking on the current leader that we have.
I had the same problem.
Yeah. Yeah, we switch principals and APs, and the whole discipline thing seemed to be one thing that kind of stood out to me because the way that our new AP handles discipline, of course, isn't the same way that our previous AP handled discipline. Some of the teachers were having some issues with how she was dealing with it. And it's so interesting because now I think of everything from an administrative perspective, and they will ask me, what do you feel? I'm like, honestly, I can't speak on it because I'm looking at it from a different lens now. So I can't say like she should have done X, Y, Z because I don't know. I would have done if I was in that situation. And sometimes I agree with what she did and they might have disagreed with it. So that's interesting too, to kind of have those kind of talks and kind of look at other things from a different lens. A teacher is like an admin, level now.
Yeah, I definitely had that problem because we have changed principals every year for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So like this year, like this school year going into next year has been the first year they've had a principal for 2 years in a row. And he's wonderful and he was my mentor during all of this. But I left my job at Langtree after the first week of June. So I had to get like all these surveys done in the middle of people trying to wrap up school year, and my teachers were not very happy with me.
Mine didn't either.
To get it done, and I just used the last data chat to talk to my team leads about the survey data, but on almost all of the areas except for facilities, which obviously there's not a ton that we can do about the size of the classrooms. On almost all of them, they improved quite a bit because our new leader does a whole lot better job of pretty much everything. He has committees for everything, and there's just a lot more teacher buy-in because he takes their ideas and he's really big on teacher leadership and stuff like that. So it definitely improved because our data from the school report cards from 2016, 2017, and the data from the teacher working condition survey from last year, only 38% of our teachers filled it out.
That was me. A lot of mine did not fill it out.
I couldn't believe our number was that low though. Like that's like terrible. It made me think that they should
fill ours out. Like we take a day during our staff meeting, we have to like sign that we filled it out and everything.
Well, that's what you should do. I would make everybody bring in their laptop to this faculty meeting and say, okay, everybody take the next 20 minutes or however long and fill it out. And when you're done, then you can leave.
Yeah.
So we do candy bars for all of our teachers.
Oh, wow.
We bring them in like it's a PD day, and it's just their survey day. And then they get a candy bar, and we mark their names off a list.
That's a good incentive.
So
all teachers love candy and
we love chocolate.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Anything. Give us anything. That's a good idea.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just said that was a good idea. I never thought about that.
It was not my idea, but I just help them do it. But we were in a similar situation. Our principal of like over 20 years retired this year. and we had kind of gotten to a spot where our morale's very low. He was kind of the leader that he doesn't confront anybody, you know, like people can get away with murder. And so the people who do what they're supposed to do because they're supposed to do it are very frustrated, and the other people are getting away with whatever they want to get away with, you know what I mean? So, but my site supervisor actually got the principal job, and she's very much like you're talking about, Amanda, with teacher leadership and teacher empowerment. She's all about that. So I'm very excited to see where she takes us. But we also have a new superintendent who just completed his first year, and so things are a lot different. We've got a lot of turnover in our district, which is crazy because we usually don't. But so he's all about these. He said the ideal class size is between 25 and 30. Yep. And so we've done away with positions at the high school, and
Oh, wow.
So that part will be interesting. So I don't know how much he's going to let her do, but if he lets her lead like she can lead, I think she'll do really well.
So the superintendent said your class size is 25 to 30?
He said that's the ideal class size. Ideal. Anything 15 and under, he's looking at, and there has to be an explanation.
Look, me and Brittany both like, wait a minute.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes. See,
I have calculus classes, you know, and physics classes that are less than that. So
I was going to say, I struggle teaching science. We're not supposed to have, and I think this is state mandated, but nobody ever follows it. I don't think we're supposed to have over 25. I've had 34 in my class before.
Wow.
And with the way my class is set up, I have 7 lab stations. So half of my room is full of lab stations. So just imagine having 34 kids in a lab. And I know it's in a different context, even in high school, because they do more than I would do in middle school. So wow. That's interesting.
He's so cute.
I know.
Thank you. He's getting so big.
I know. It's hard to believe that when we started this journey together, you were pregnant.
I know. Here he is.
I know. Look.
Oh,
he's a mess. I can't get my husband to watch both of them, so he's got our 3-year-old riding a lawnmower in the golf cart. So I'm sorry for having him in here.
No, you're fine.
Oh.
We had a lot of turnover. I had a new leader come in the end of January, and we have a whole new administrative team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the school that I just left, the assistant principal retired, so they added we have a master principal that's over the high school and the lower school. Then they fired the principal at the upper school. And so they hired what's called an associate principal at both the lower and the upper school. And then they hired a new assistant principal at the lower school.
Wow.
So now they're going to have a lot of administrative positions. And I think that it's going to be really hard for everybody to get on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Because we made a lot of really good progress at the lower school. So I think that they wanted to focus on the upper school this year, like this upcoming school year. But I think that that's a lot of people to have to get all on the same page as far as like educational philosophies and beliefs about what's important and all that. And I wish them the best of luck. Like, I love my school. I didn't leave that school because I didn't love it. I just left it because I got a really amazing opportunity, like my dream job. And it just made it really hard to finish this when I'm not in the building anymore.
Right. I think a lot of people are just, I see that it's not, everybody's school seems to be transitioning, but I think it's just at that time where a lot of people have been teaching for long periods of time, and it's time for them to make a transition to either, you know, advance in their career or just have a change.
Right.
I mean, look at all of us. I don't know how long. I know I've been teaching for 15 years. So it's time for me to make a change or do something different. It's just, you need that. When you stay in one setting for a long period of time, it becomes comfortable and you really can't, you know, you don't move up. So I just think some areas are just having that time where it's time for people to make transitions. Sometimes it's a bulk of people. Sometimes it's only, it's a like few.
Have any of you guys gone through like an AP pool or interviewed for assistant principal jobs?
No.
Ours came open and I was going to. I contacted Dr. Lim, so our other assistant principal retired. So we had the principal and the assistant principal retired. And my site supervisor, who is our second assistant principal, moved up. So we've got a whole new admin team. So I contemplated it, but like after talking to her, she was the math coach before me. And I just sat down and talked with her about it. She was with our new superintendent, he really wanted somebody with experience, like 2 people with experience, since she was brand new. And she'd only been an assistant principal for 2nd year of assistant principal, and she moved up. And so after talking to her about it, she just kind of told me, she's like, Jessica, I really think you're gonna, it's gonna come back open in a few years. I think you can hang out here for a few years. And I said, yes, ma'am. And so I didn't apply, but I thought about it, but
yeah, there were a couple positions open that some people at the district office were like, you should do it. And I'm just like, I'm kind of nervous just to like jump out there and do it. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, give me like another year or 2, and then I think I'll be ready. And everyone's like, what are you waiting for? I'm just like, I have to make sure I'm mentally ready to role. I mean, I have the background knowledge, but I just have to make sure I'm mentally ready.
I think it's just a good time for me. My youngest son's starting kindergarten, and my oldest son is going to be in 5th grade. And the position I took is at a really small school for kids with disabilities, and it's a private school. So it's going, like, my master's is in special ed, so I get to use that again. And then obviously use what I've learned here to make the school a better place. But it literally just like kind of fell in my lap. I saw it on Indeed and I was like, oh, why not? Because I'd already been in 2 assistant principal pools. And it's just when you go through an assistant principal pool, it's such a slow process. Yeah. So they start in like January and February, and then you don't know anything until like summertime. So it's like interviewing, but we'll get back to you in a really long time to let you know if you got the job. And so I just kind of got kind of impatient with the whole process. And I would have probably ended up staying at my school and getting an assistant principal job if I would have stayed. But I'm going to make quite a bit more money, which it's not an end all be all, but it's always nice.
Yeah.
Right. Have you guys taken a praxis?
I haven't.
No, you guys have to take a praxis. I don't, but I am going to take, when I finish this, I am going to take the special education director praxis.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you already have your degree in special education.
Yeah. So in order to get a degree or a licensure in special education director area, you have to have X amount of classes towards being a principal and a master's in special ed, and then you have to pass the praxis.
Now, I heard, and this is just hearing, that some places are leery about hiring those that have the add-on versus someone that went through the entire program.
I wouldn't understand why, because I think it's important to understand both teaching and being a leader.
Yeah.
I mean, I started out as a TA whenever I got into education, and I was a TA for like 2 years before I started teaching, and I was lateral entry. So, I mean, I don't think there's any straightforward way that makes it okay, because when I tell people I'm lateral entry, they're like, really? You were at lateral entry? And I'm like, yeah, I passed the praxis, and I had never taken a class in education in my life. I had just been a TA.
See, that's kind of me. I didn't take, when I graduated, I could do elementary and middle school because of the way it was set up. So when I worked in Chester for 4 years. And I didn't actually go for a certain area, but I had taught science for so long, they deemed me highly qualified, as I had actually took science as a, kind of as my major. So
Right.
when I moved to Rock Hill, that's basically like I have that as a certification because I've been teaching it for so long.
I'm not far from you now because I live in Charlotte. So I'm like right over the line
Yeah.
from you. I went the other day for a meeting. It was like right beside of Rock Hill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're not far from me or Brittany.
Yeah, because I live in Rock Hill.
Yeah. Brittany like another 30 minutes from me, so you're right there at us.
Well, ladies, I think that we've covered everything, all of our experiences. I'm kind of sad that this is our
I
last.
know. What about, is everybody going to the reception that they're going to have on the 3rd?
As long as I make it.
What?
Yes, you're going to make it. You're going to make it.
You got it. Just do it.
Yes.
Remember, 3s are for degrees.
Oh, that's so funny. I got this. I know. It's just
Yeah.
like,
You have this. If you've done all the others, it's just a matter of getting started. I think that's what got me. I was just like, oh, it's kind of, you're kind of on your own right now, which he said was going to happen.
right.
He said that it was going to be a part where you would be on your own. We would prepare you. You're kind of on your own and you're like, I know I have to do this. And then we're out of school. So it's like, do I really want to do this today or do I need to start on it tomorrow?
I haven't been out of school. I've been working.
Oh, have you?
Yes. I stopped working at my one job on a Friday and I started my job as head of school on a Monday.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So finding the time has just been so hard because I felt pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah. But once you get started, you'll be like, oh, this is all I have to do? Oh, okay, I can do this.
I know. That's why I keep telling myself I can do hard things.
Because when Brittany texted me and she said she had already turned hers in, I was like, oh, let me get started. Brittany turned hers in. I was like, let me get started. When
I
she
was watching y'all.
I was like, oh, let me get started. She was already saying she had turned hers in. And I was like, and then we had not a town hall meeting, but we had a meeting and it was like 3 people on there that he had said that had turned theirs all the way in, had completed
I know.
everything.
I was having a panic attack.
Oh, well, let me hurry up and put something together and get on the bandwagon. Once you get started, you'll be like, oh, I can get this. It's nothing. Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, for all the advice. It's been a pleasure working with each of you.
Yes, same here.
And I wish you all wonderful adventures in your careers. And hopefully we'll all get to meet in person at the reception.
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
So I will download this to YouTube after we get done, and then I'll send you guys a copy of it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye.